In this Academy video, I'm going to break down how I basically section away and organize my previous session range data for things such as the previous day, the previous week, or previous month and quarter, which we use pretty heavily in our strategy and my analysis as we look at some of those, or pretty much all of those, on a pretty relevant daily and reoccurring basis. Basically, the previous day range is very relevant in the following session. Essentially, really all of these ranges are most relevant during the following session. They obviously will remain in existence after that time frame has passed, but I find that they are very, very useful and something that we can work with very much so during the following session. So in each time frame, that's what I'm referring to as a session. So previous day range, very relevant the next day. Previous week range, very relevant the next week. Previous month, very relevant the next month. Previous quarter, and so on and so forth, right? So this is how I essentially mark off everything. I'm sure there's indicators that are out there, or there will be in the future. I prefer to do it all a little bit more manually, and this is how we will do it here. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with, we're going to zoom out to a quarterly outlook. So up in the top here, we're going to go ahead and click on the 3-month period here. And the very first things I do is I mark off the highs and the lows. So with a horizontal ray, which I have basically marked on my toolbar here, but you can find it over here in the second drop down, and it's going to be right here, like 5 or 6 down into here, right? The horizontal ray. I'm going to make sure that the magnet is on. I like to have it on strong magnet here. And all that does is if we had that off, right, you can just basically take this and we would just put this out in the chart somewhere. But when we turn our magnet on, you grab the actual tip of this, it's going to magnetize it right to the next area. So it's magnetized right now to that wick. If you drop it a little lower, it's going to magnetize it to the top of the body, bottom of the body. And then right here, you can see it's on the bottom of the wick here. All right, so for this, this is how we get the exact highs and lows, by the way, right? So for this case, I'm going to take my horizontal ray. I'm going to put it right there on my quarterly. We're going to go to the previous quarter, of course. So this is last quarter, right? So this is our developing quarter while we're trading within this right now. But I'm going to be going ahead and marking off last quarter's information here. So we're going to mark the low. Come up to the settings bar. I have a few different presets here. You can really mark it as you'd like. So I just have it with a couple of different preset colors for the lines and the lettering here. I'm just going to go ahead and mark this here in the time of recording. This was actually Q1. I'm going to put Q1 25 low. And over here, we're going to have that sectioned off here in a second. I'm going to go ahead and put one for the high settings, Q1 25 high. Now, as we're going here, we want to come over here and actually label these the same way on this side, or just label them to some degree, right? You can put high, low, whatever, because we're going to package these up into a folder just for convenience and consistency. I'm going to leave it as we already are doing here, right? So we're going to go low. Okay, click on it again. Q1 25 high. All right, now that I've got two of these things here, I'm going to go ahead and highlight the two, come up to the top, create a group or a folder, and I'm just going to label this whole folder Q1 25, right? So now everything I put in here, we can drop that down and open it and then turn it on and off, right? With the little eyeball indicator here, we can shift this around and organize it however you'd like. But that is my quarter 125 folder so far. Got the low, got the high. All right, that's pretty much what I'll look for in this region here. Now we'll zoom it out a bit, and I go for the 4-hour time frame when I'm looking at anything higher than a weekly. All right, and we're going to go ahead and turn off that magnet now and start off by getting a fixed range volume profile tool. Once again, it's on my toolbar up here that I've created, but if you want to find it fresh, it's over here 4 down, all right, and about middle way down in here on the side of TradingView. And I'm going to go ahead and drag this now from that previous quarter open to the quarter close. Fun fact, I have the quarterly VWAP on here, and you can basically kind of quickly see where quarters close, quarters open, right? Because the VWAP resets. So this is basically right here. You can see down at the bottom bar right here, the time and date. I have this on UTC. So this is January 1 at 0, give or take, right? And I'm going to drag that over to the end of the quarter. That gives us our fixed range volume profile. I'm going to drag that up, right? And no need to really change that name. I'm going to go ahead and take a parallel channel now, and this is just personal preference. You can do this if you like. I just like to actually kind of box off the ranges here. And another pro tip here is that, when you see this kind of getting squirrely right here, if you actually hit the shift button, it'll make it nice and flat. Go ahead and click and you can drag it down. All right. So that'll kind of flatten you out there. Now I'm going to go ahead and package that away right into the Q1 folder as well. And now I've got that's basically as simple as it gets, right? You can go ahead. I'll also, since we have it here, I'm going to go ahead and mark a naked point of control here. And you can do the same thing here, right? Just go ahead and label that. You can either keep this in the folder itself, or sometimes more than most times I have this actually packed away in a NPOC folder, where you can have that there. You can go ahead and look up your quarterly pivot if you'd like as well. And if you'd like to kind of keep everything for that quarter all packed up in the same area, you sure can, right? For me, I actually keep it separate, but just this is just a high level of how I would be doing these just in general on all time frames. So now quarter one, all right, 2025 is sitting here nice and neat. I can come and locate this and see where we're at any time. At the time of recording, this is a really, really good range because the previous range data is going to be really relevant in the current session. And so far, all we've done here is we've swept the low, right, earlier this quarter in the beginning of April. And now I'm just looking to see if we actually flip into this range value area low here. At that point, we'll be looking for a run up to the quarterly naked point of control, or just the point of control in general, right? That's our natural target. Once we get there, look for a flip and then a range rotation, and then we'd reevaluate once we get there, right? And that's kind of our higher level range at the moment. Go ahead and turn that off. Now we're going to go ahead and zoom in to our monthly, and we'll follow the same exact setup, right? So I'm looking at the March range here, right? So we're going to go ahead and make sure our magnet is on. Go ahead and put that high there, right? We'll grab another one for the low. Go ahead and label these quickly. And we're going to say March 25 low, March 25 high, edit them manually also. Okay, zoom it out a little bit. Now for the monthly time frame, I'll probably take it down to the 1 hour. 4 hours still probably honestly fine. I just kind of go with the 1 hour for pretty much the monthly, the weekly, and then down at the daily, I'll choose a smaller time frame here. Now the reason I say that is because it will slightly at times, if we went all daily time frames on the fixed range volume profile, occasionally you'll have a little discrepancy on where some of the volume does lie. So I found that these are the appropriate time frames for that. Once again, just a little bit of back testing on my part, and then you can change that if you like, or kind of go with it however you'd feel. But we got the March high, March low. Let's go ahead and mark off the month of March, right? So I know where the end of it is there. We're going to track over here to March 1, April there, right? We've got our range, fixed range volume profile. We're going to grab our parallel channel now. No need to really mark off the point of control. It's already been met, kind of ran through. It's something to be aware of, but nothing too crazy. And let's just make sure we package all these up correctly. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and name this now March 25. And as far as some of these higher time frames go, I do end up keeping these for quite some time, probably for like maybe a year, right? So I'll keep all the quarters for this year kept filed away over here. When we get into some of the smaller time frame, like the weekly and the daily, those two I just basically recycle. So we're labeling this one all March, right? And I'll package this up, and then in next month I'll just make a completely new folder. I'll keep March here. I'll add April. I'll add May, so on and so forth. I'll add Q2, and these will just kind of start stacking down as we go. Make sure we drag the fixed range volume profile up in there. But basically, this is a nice example as well. Okay, we started off the range, or we start off the month right here of April with our previous month, very relevant. Okay, so when we were trading this in our strategy, we had a nice run up right to the high of our last month's range, right to the low of our last month's range, right to the point of control of our last month's range, and then we did break down. Took out the quarterly low, took out the monthly low, right? Got a little SFP there, and now we're back in that range now. It's very helpful as we are, progressing through each month, because like I said, this was a really nice trade here. This was, even if you're not actively trading these, it's just, I think it's very helpful to just understand some of the price movements and how they're likely to go. So you're not constantly in a state of like shock every time you see a big price movement, right? And a lot of times we'll have some of these range datas. Next month will come, you'll end up rotating that range or the quarter, right? So this quarter is in front of us here, and we have a pretty open range above us that we have not been in really the whole time. We've actually opened up outside of it. We've taken the low, so as long as we're holding above that, I do actually look for the likeliness that we actually come up and at least come back to that point of control. Then from there, we'll look to see if we flip that with any sign of strength, and then look for the rotation. But this is something that I'm heavily aware of as we're trading within this next quarter here, right? So, and these don't just disappear after this quarter. This would still be a pretty viable area to be aware of, even if we go a couple months into the quarter after this. This is if we actually get into this historic or this previous range. It's the same whether it's this quarter or next. It's just generally I've noticed that it's really relevant for that following session, right? So I hope that makes sense. All right, let's go to the weekly time frame here. And this is basically a folder that I will just completely reuse time and time again. Okay, so I won't mark it off with like a certain date or a certain time. I just label this one as previous week range. And same things apply here, right? So we're going to go ahead and make sure the magnet's on. We're going to go to the weekly time frame. We're going to start off by marking highs and lows. All right, go ahead and just label this right away. And it's PW high. You can, obviously label system however you like. This is just what I do. PW high, drag that to the low, same deal. PW low. All right, we're going to go and highlight the two, make a folder, just PW. For me, that's just an easy way to like kind of identify it. You can close this off if you like. I just like to keep it as organized as possible. These things down here, this is the text, obviously, for the BTC that I just throw on there. I just find it easier than having that watermark behind it. And then these are all the indicators that are on your chart. They will appear at the bottom area here, just so you're aware. And this is all findable in the object tree, right? So we have another video about that. Normally, you'll see your watch list over here, and that's the default. But if you come down to this little book-looking icon, it drags you over to the object tree, and that's where we're organizing all this. And you can turn things on, turn things off pretty simply. All right, for the weekly, let's actually drag it back out once again to the 1 hour time frame. Let's go ahead and grab a fixed range volume profile tool, and we're going to go ahead and look at the previous week, right? So currently it's a Friday when I'm making this recording. So I'm going to go back to basically the week before this, right? So this is where this week started. So I'm going 1 week before that. Obviously, you would be doing this, or I do this myself at the end of the week. So it's usually don't have too much price action in front of you that would make it any kind of confusing, but just want to be clear on why I'm doing it this way in this example. All right, so I'm looking at this week right here. This is our developing week. At the end of this week, which is in just a couple of days, I'll end up just doing the same thing Sunday night. I'll just go ahead and clear it from Monday, drag it over, and we'll do it from there. So we got our fixed range volume profile. Let's drag that into our previous week folder. Let's go ahead and grab our parallel channel. Once again, squarely shift, locks it up, and then you just drag and drop. All right, here we actually had a nice new weekly NPOC, and that's all that this is, right? You're looking at this time frame closed off. Okay, price has not been back to the point of control. That's what makes that an NPOC. Untapped really is a better term for it, but that's what it is, right? So here's our previous week range. This specifically at the time of recording, we had a really nice little setup, and I look for this setup pretty much every single week. Opened up around this region here, nice and patient, comes up, takes the high, right? Stops out anybody in a short right here. Gives us a little drop. Didn't really give us anything too crazy, but did give us a pretty good little move for the week. Overall, pretty stagnant. But this is how a setup like this is where you come up and you sweep that high, and then you end up coming back into that range. And then you end up tagging that weekly NPOC. We have our weekly pivot around this region that we could look to. But it's not a guarantee every single week. And for me, just like this example here, I as soon as the week is over, I don't necessarily hold on to that bias. Like, okay, he swept the high of this week and I got to go lower. It still could by all means. And I will keep track of this weekly NPOC now, just in general. But this weekly range will expire. At the end of this week, I won't look at it again. I'll actually take these exact levels and I'll just go back to the weekly chart and I'll just move them, right, to our new weekly high, to our new low. And I'll just drag this fixed range volume profile tool over. I'll move this over. So it's just one folder that just continuously just gets changed as we go. The weekly NPOC I would keep on I just haven't labeled it, but it's this right here, right? So this is actually a level that would be aware of. Still could very well come down to it. not super relevant until we start making a move, right? So, but that's just how I view this at that point. And then finally, let's do a previous day range, similar to the previous week. I'm just that, and then we're just going to reuse this each and every day. Magnet tool on, horizontal ray, the last, not the current candle, right? The one before it. That's what we're looking at for all of these. Go ahead and label this PD high. Okay. Go ahead and label the bottom one PD low. And that's what that just stands for, previous day. Okay. Go ahead and label these correctly. And this is another pro tip. If you get a little behind, right, and you start making 4 or 5 things without coming over here and labeling them, just highlight over it, turn it on, turn it off, right? So you know which one you're covering. And just go ahead and label it then, right? So PD comes at the high. We've got the PD low. Let's go ahead and section these away. Just PD, keep it simple, okay? Turn our magnet off. For this daily time frame, I go down to the 15-minute, all right, to pull my fixed range volume profile tool. Honestly, it's not that big a deal. Well, on a daily time frame, you're not gonna be able to pull a fixed range volume profile on a daily candle because it's just one candle. So you will want to get into a smaller time frame. So that's the reason behind that. But let's go ahead and pull it over once again. In this case, because of this example, I'm not going to be pulling it over this region at the end of today. Generally, I try to catch it right at the new day, and I will just pull it till the current price action or right to the pretty much where we are. But I'm going to make sure that on this example, today is currently Friday, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it for Thursday. All right, and you can pull it forward, you can pull it backwards. So I'm just going here, and you can go. Honestly, I like to go with these shorter time frames a little early. So I go from 23:45 to 23:45. So 15 minutes before technically the end of the day, right? Probably doesn't make too much difference, but just something I do. And go ahead and pass. Go ahead and put our parallel channel, same as always, right? Make sure everything is nice and organized in here, and you can do this with the drop down on, drop down off. The fixed range volume profile tool, at least for me, for whatever reason, it like defaults to popping up at the bottom of the lineup here every time, so you just might want to note that. And then here, right, we got pretty nice little previous day range. Nothing too crazy today, pretty ranging at the moment, but this is where I'll pretty much look daily for. And it all will come down to context, of course, right? Like we're going to have days where we're just trading within the range to start off. We'll immediately hit the POC. We'll immediately hit the new daily pivot. And there really won't be too much to play around with. But on these big moves, where like days like this, right, where you get this huge dump at the end of the day, well, then that puts our new daily pivots a little higher. You'll have a point of control at a little higher. It just kind of gives us something to work off of a little bit easier. But like I said, the context is there, or it has to be there, and we have to like kind of be aware of all things. I'll also at most days look for the sweep of the previous day low, and then at least a run. And these previous day ranges is really just a day setup, right? So that weekly range is kind of the setup for a week. Monthly and quarterly, those are more high time frame, but the previous day range is truly like a day trade setup. And even if it's not a tradable setup, like where it's, once again, if everybody's not sitting around trading, which I'm well aware that not many are, not everyone at least, I think it's important just to understand how the market may move that day, right? So a lot of times we'll get a really nice little push or a dump, like right before a day, like CPI comes out or something, and then everyone anticipates that it's because the price is baked in or whatever the case is, and it's really not anything to do with that. The market's very efficient. We have ebbs and flows. If you get a dump, new averages generate higher. Likely we come back up the next day. Vice versa, you get a pump, more likely we come back down. Like it's just same thing on a small scale, on a large scale. It all just it just ebbs and flows. It really is what it is, right? So that is basically it. And then, like I said, every day, I just at the end of the day, I'll just come back on and I'll come over here and I'll hit the previous day. I'll go back to the daily area here and I'll just start dragging and dropping, right? Magnet back on. I'll take the previous day high here. I'll drag it to the next day. All right, drag this to the next day. And I'm just giving an example of how I just reuse the previous day and the previous week without having to make new ones every single day. The only ones I'll keep is the higher time frame ones, because I think that those are obviously going to be more relevant, a little longer than the daily and the weekly. Plus you'll have a million folders if you do it that way. But just drag that over. All right, we go back to this piece right here, and I'll just go ahead and just drag this right on over to the current day. All right, just basically just leapfrog it from 1 to 1. Move the parallel channel, turn your magnet off because that'll be annoying. And then there you go, right? Didn't even have to change anything over here. The only thing you'll have to add in is it when you have like a new NPOC, right? And you can either keep that here. I keep all the NPOCs actually just in a separate folder because I like to just have them on the chart in general. Because even though after this day passes off, I won't look at this daily range again. But if we left a DN like a daily NPOC, I will keep that on the chart, obviously for until we come back to it. And there you have it, folks. That is how-to on how I at least set up and maintain my previous session range data. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to tag me in the Discord itself. And look forward to seeing you all in the next video. And until then, everybody, cheers.